Hey, welcome to another episode of Roll or Die. Today we have one of my fiercest competitors. I've faced her, I think, at every belt, and also one of my good friends, Legacy Black Belt, Mary Wildner. Thanks for joining us, Mary.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
I met Mary, I think it might not have been every belt. I think we met at Blue Belt at the Abu Dhabi trials at Blue Belt when we both didn't make it through, I think
Was that
2013
the
or
first trial?
2014. Yeah, the first time
14
in
would
the
have
open
been.
weight. Yeah, yeah. But Mary has a very successful competition history. She actually has been to Abu Dhabi herself, and you've been to many other overseas places. So, can you tell us a little bit about your competition sort of history, just in a nutshell?
I started Muay Thai first,
Hmm.
and I did that for 2.5 years. I had 5 fights, and I decided like I didn't want to do it anymore because I had to train 2.5 hours a day,
Mm.
5 days a week, and
Cool.
I was just getting it was costing a lot going to the physio because my shins would just get bashed up a lot.
Right.
Um, and then my new gym had like jujitsu, and I kept having to walk past jujitsu, and I was like, oh yeah, I'll try it. And my instructor is actually I think he's still a white belt. He's Brazilian, but he's done jujitsu before, so he's like, oh yeah, let's do a class together. And so that's how it started. And I
Wow.
was like, oh, I can choose my training schedule. No one's at me.
So wait,
So
your
you let
instructor was a white belt.
Yeah, he's a white belt. Yeah.
That's a first. That is amazing. Even that is just, I've never
No,
heard of.
no, my Muay Thai instructor was a white belt.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and he's like, come on, let's go try it. Yeah.
yeah. And
Oh,
then was there a period where you did both, or did you just straight away drop the Muay Thai and straight into Jiu-Jitsu, or what
Yeah,
happened?
just dropped the Muay Thai because I was like, um, yeah, I know the expectation is like, you have to run in the morning, then you have to do 2.5 hours of training,
mm,
and you have to do it 5 days a week,
mm,
and it's super taxing, especially if you have to work and you have kids.
yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah. So Mary also has
Mm.
two kids. How old are your older two kids?
they're
Te-
nearly 15 and 13 now.
yeah, teenagers, and she's got a little baby or toddler.
Well,
Uh,
yeah,
h-
she's
how old is your
not
little
so
one?
little. She's 2.
Yeah. So she's definitely an inspiring woman, got her hands full, and she still manages to train like a beast. Well,
Yeah.
what you probably still be training 5 days a week, yeah, with jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, with jiu-jitsu, I try not to train as much, and I do try to do lifting as well. I find
Mm.
that through all the years, I used to train twice a day, a few times a week, and then it didn't really benefit. It didn't help me progress that much faster. It just I felt like I got injured more,
Mm.
and I was more tired. And then when I went to training, I wouldn't train as well. And then you get into this mindset where you're like, oh, you're not progressing, and all of these things don't work, and also going against men, it's like I find it very, like when I train with the guys and I train with the girls, because we're building a women's team in my team,
Mm.
and we have a lot more girls, and I do girls open mats, and training with them I could just go on forever, but like training with guys the next day, I really do feel it.
Yeah. So what's the
Yeah.
what's the best mix you've found? I love hearing all of this, by the way, because I've been just training like a beast. Just in the, like, I really want to get my brown belt this year. I'm very focused on that,
Yeah.
and like sometimes I'm doing 4 classes a day. I have a goal to do 5 classes in a day, but I actually
Yeah.
also know it's not really progressing my jiu-jitsu. I
No.
it's progressing. But what is the right balance that you found in your wisdom?
Oh.
you know,
Oh, in my wisdom, with why,
yeah,
like I find, because I get up early, so I start work at 7. So I get up at 5:30. I drop the baby to daycare, then I start work, and then I used to train lunch and go back at night. And I did that like for 3 days, and then the other 2 days I'd train open mat.
mm,
And I just found like I was just so tired all the time,
yeah,
and it was so hard for me to lose, like to keep my weight on.
yeah,
Like I'd always just like lose weight and be super tired and then get injured, and also just, yeah, I just felt like I didn't progress, and it would just start to irritate me. But now I feel like I don't know. I feel like now with like 4 max jiu-jitsu sessions a week and not necessarily classes, sometimes it's like drilling and then rolling. I found that my jiu-jitsu has improved a lot. And so has I don't know. I feel like everything's finally,
when you
balanced.
say not classes, what do you mean by that though? Because like, do you just have mates who you will just meet up with and do some drilling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes like you go to class and the technique, like once you've done it for like over 5 years, you've kind of seen almost all the techniques in your gym. So you kind of have to like go and find your own techniques to learn, which you want to implement in your game, or omit the ones that you don't want anymore and just like focus on the ones you want to improve on,
It's really interesting.
So I guess, I think like once you get to purple belt, you have to start doing that for yourself. I think you have to be in charge of your own jiu-jitsu.
Wow.
Yeah, agree. And you mentioned your women's team. Like I've seen photos, amazing like numbers that you guys get there at your classes and at your open mats. What do you think is the key to keeping women in this sport?
When I first started at Legacy, there was only like, including myself, there was 5 women. That was it. And I think having women there that are serious about jiu-jitsu and like higher belts really help with the culture of women. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And do you do anything like when new people come in, how do you aim to sort of keep them? What little tips or tricks would you have for keeping them, or just sort of hope that they stick? Or
like I'll give an example. Like there was this someone had sent me this this black belt from Japan who's actually now my teammate, and they're like, oh look, someone for you to compete against. And I was like, oh, I'd rather have her to like train with, because like how often are we going to compete against her, like, and for me to have another higher belt to train with is like, because I don't have any higher belt women to train with,
Yeah.
So
I know what you mean.
I was like, hey, I started talking to her and I was like, oh, why don't you try our gym, and it's not the closest gym to her, but I said, why don't you try it? And she goes, oh, I was going to try a different gym, I won't name the name. And I was like, yeah, go ahead. I was like, why don't you try all of them, because you don't know what the vibe's like, if it suits you. So, and she came to ours and she didn't even try the other ones, and she did 2 weeks and she loved it, and that was it.
Yeah. And then you've got a black belt training partner.
Yeah.
Wow. Lucky you.
Like, I mean, how often do you get black belt women, right, to train with? So
yeah, I know. Well, I say that to the women at our gym too often, but sometimes there's just not many of them. Like we had a lot, and a lot of them seem to have dropped out since COVID. So have you guys had people drop out and not come back, guys and girls, or not so much?
No, our gym is definitely much quieter, I think, because of COVID.
Yeah, that can't be avoided.
But it's also hard to get everyone to train at the same time. So we have a lot of girls, but they don't come to the same classes because everyone's schedule is so different.
Yeah.
And between all our gyms, we have a lot of women, but to get them to come to training at one time is like nearly impossible,
Yeah. So do you do open mats for just your school or for all women?
I do them mostly for our girls to train with each other. Sometimes when it comes into competition season, I have friends and they have friends. I'm like, yeah, just bring them. Yeah,
definitely.
But it's mostly to build our team, to get them to train together.
Yeah, for sure.
Your competition mindset. We'd love to kind of dive into that a little bit. You've been competing so much. So like, what's your ritual leading up to comps, and what do you like on the day, and how do you best prepare?
When I was like a white belt and blue belt, I used to I never knew the point system. And sometimes I'd lose just like being stalled. And I was like, I don't understand this. And then I think it was only purple belt that I started to learn the point system. I mean, like, I don't even know the rules still, like all the technicalities. But generally speaking, I know all the points, that you can take. So now it's like I come in there with a strategy that like, I want to try to get ahead on points before I try to go for submissions, Yeah. But comp day, I just try to pack food. I try to just stick to myself. listen to music, and if I feel like I'm getting too nervous, then I listen to music that's like calming. And if there it is, my little person.
There she is.
Hi.
Hi.
And
So cute.
yeah, and, if I feel like I'm getting, like if I'm too tired, if I feel like I'm, because it's a long day, then I'll try to like listen to music to amp myself up.
Yeah, so you need to control yourself.
Yeah, and I like to take 3 days off before the comp. So if I've been training hard for a comp, if the comp's on Saturday, I'll stop training Wednesday.
Yeah.
Wednesday night, that'll be it. Yeah. I like a few days off.
Are you comfortable to talk about your Asian Open experience? What happened with you at the Asian Open 2016, I think it was.
Yeah.
The year after me. Yeah.
So I'm probably the lightest lightweight in my division. I sit around 61 kilos. I have trouble putting on weight. Most of the girls dropped to 64. And then when I was going to Japan, there was nobody in lightweight, and that's usually a stacked division. That's like the average woman. So I was like, oh, there was nobody. And I was like, okay, well, it was only April. And I was like, well, I'm not going all the way there to fight April, who's my friend. So I went down one, and it was super hard trying to lose weight in Japan because everything's salty, and it was hard to get, like, you couldn't cook anywhere because of where we were staying. So I dropped the weight, and then I competed, and the first person I competed against, I went to touch hands like you always do, like you shake hands, say hello, like when you get on the mats, and then when you fight, you go out and you touch hands again. Well, that's what I've always done, and that's always what's happened in Australia. So I was like, okay, do the same. And she just came, she like grabbed my hand, pulled me down, and armbarred me straight away.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was like, fuck. I was like, I can't believe I just. And Liv was like, did she just armbar you when you touched hands? I was like, did she? I was like, she did, didn't she? I was like, I was like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then after that, I was like, I'm not touching anyone's hands anymore, except if they put it out first.
Wow. That's amazing. I guess it's not illegal. It's just bad sportsmanship.
It's not illegal. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's it.
That's
but you have had like a lot of competition success. Like from my end, the comps I've entered with you've smashed the hell out of me. So you've certainly had a lot more competition. That was just one bat.
I remember seeing you at Blue Belt, and you were sitting down like warming up, and like you had your like a singlet, and you have the biggest biceps and deltoids, and I was like, holy shit. I was like, I thought I was muscly.
No, thank you. Too kind. But no, you've been to Abu Dhabi. You've been to have you been over to America, to anything over there, to Worlds or anything?
At Blue Belt, I did go. Yeah.
Yeah. How was that?
So I won the first round, and the second round, I passed her guard, and she kept my hand in between her legs. So the referee never gave me the points. And then, so we stayed there the whole fight, and then that's how I lost. So
that's what you were talking about, perhaps not knowing the rule set enough to understand the point system. Yeah.
And then when I asked Thiago, like when I joined his team, he was like, no, that's a pass if you pass the hips. I was like, oh.
Yeah. Maybe referee discretion. Yeah, not sure. Yeah. And you mentioned as well about injuries. Was it a knee that you injured?
Yes, so I've done, if you looked at my rib, you'd see like this sticking out like tripod. And I've done my knee. So I actually competed against Margot at Purple Belt at Pampax, and in the finals, I didn't see that she'd wrapped a lapel around my knee. And I'd backstepped, and then she came up and pulled it, and my knee was like coming like inside. And so I heard a little crack, but it was fine. And then we kept fighting, and then I was like retaining my guard, and I just pushed off her hip, and then my knee just gave way.
Because that took you out for about 6 to 12 months, yeah?
I came back after 2 months of training, and I competed at 6 months. Yeah.
Oh, shit. Okay. Yeah. And there's some other health stuff that went on around that same time,
Yes.
soon after that. Are you comfortable to talk about that?
Yep. So when I did my knee, my surgeon was like, oh, he's like, oh, you should get your thyroid checked because your eyeballs are like bulging a little bit. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, you should get that checked. And I was like, okay. It was so random, but I was like, okay, he's a surgeon.
Okay.
Anyway, so I went to the GP, just a random GP around work, and she's like, yeah, but your knee surgeon told you that. Like, he's a knee surgeon. What does he know? And I was like, he's a surgeon. Like, you're a GP. I don't know. Just do my bloods. And she did my bloods, and she came back and she's like, well, yeah, your thyroid's fine, but your kidney's not. And I was like, oh. And they're like, she's like, did you know your kidneys, or did you have a history? I was like, no, nobody's ever said anything, And then they checked my blood pressure, and my blood pressure was through the roof. So I had to start seeing a specialist. And we had to do all kinds of tests. And then he put me on blood pressure medication to settle my kidneys down. Because if your blood pressure is high, it puts a lot of pressure on your kidneys.
All right.
So they didn't know whether the kidneys was causing the blood pressure or the blood pressure was causing the kidneys. They still don't know, actually.
So no, you didn't find out how this came about or what caused it? Nothing?
No. And then I started getting kidney infections. Like every 2 months, I'd end up in hospital on IV drips. Antibiotics, IV. Yeah.
So does that impact, or I guess, how does that impact your jiu-jitsu?
Well, I just didn't realize I was like so tired all the time, but I'm always tired. Like I have kids, so I'm like always tired. They don't sleep. I don't sleep. I get up early. I don't sleep at night, So I'm just so used to running on like empty all the time. So I was just like, oh, yeah, it's normal. But when I was on the blood pressure medication, like I started to realize like, oh, like, I can breathe a bit better. I felt like my chest was like super tight all the time.
Wow. And so it's under control now, or?
So when I got pregnant, my kidneys was like fine. Blood pressure was fine.
Wow.
And now my like completely healed.
Well, that's the advice.
And then,
everybody out there, all of our listeners, if things are out of order in the body, just go get pregnant. Everything
well,
fine.
My friend has MS, and like when she got pregnant, it was like her MS was like fine.
Wow.
It's, I had it. Yeah. So pregnancy does two crazy things.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it does. And it gave you this beautiful little girl that you've got there with you.
Yes.
Who I love watching on Instagram. She's gorgeous. You live with her obviously, so it's a little bit different for you, but she's just so cute. She's really that very cute age. And you also had a pretty special moment about 15 months ago or so when you received your black belt the same day as your partner. Yeah.
Yes.
Your daughter's father.
Yeah. So he's been like, when I moved to Legacy, there was a group of guys. They were like little group, and they were really like, it's always like confronting for a woman to go into a jiu-jitsu gym, especially if there's not many women, like, Muay Thai, anything, because they're all men, and you kind of just feel like the odd one out, and they're like, oh, you're annoying, like I have to train with you and I have to go lighter, and they were super lovely to me, and they just took me in, and he was in that group of one of them. So yeah, they're still my buddies.
That's so good. Actually, I just want to say on that note, right? I don't see, and I've never said this before, so it's just coming up for me now. I feel like I should say, I don't see women that way in the gym. Like, I know I'm not really a normal guy, but I see women as in our gym like a breath of fresh air, and like it's a privilege to get to roll with a woman, and it's like to be more technical. And
exactly.
I really feel like it's a whole different dynamic that I look forward to, especially like my girlfriend lives overseas. So I even being able to have physical contact with another woman, and it's not a sexual thing, but it's just to have physical contact. It's all lovely. Like I like without women in the gym, I would be only half as attracted to jiu-jitsu as I am. So I think not all men feel that way,
Yeah, no, it's true. But it's also because there's more women in the gym these days, right?
Yeah, probably.
I think the culture of the gym goes a long way towards that. Like, can you talk at all about, we've had Tiago on the podcast as well. He's great. Like, he was one of my favorite podcasts. Can you talk at all about the culture there at Legacy?
Oh
Not
yeah,
just for
like
women, but in general.
yeah, Thiago's like super fair. Like I've never met anyone more fair than Thiago. Like he when I came to the gym, I think like people are trying to tell him don't let Mary in. But he's just like, oh, I'm gonna have her, give her a go. And there was
Why
actually
was that?
somebody
For politics or?
probably.
Because you came over as a blue belt or?
Yeah. And then there was someone who actually tried to get me kicked out of the gym from our gym, my gym, no. And Thiago didn't want to accept it. And he was a black belt who tried. Yeah.
Wow.
So, that was quite amazing, because I was like, oh, for sure I'm gonna get kicked out, But he was like, well, she's done nothing wrong, so I'm not gonna kick her out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Wow.
So what's your role at the gym? You work there, right?
No, I just train. I just teach. So he I used to just help with the kids, and then from the kids, and then the girls class grew. The girls grew. So we did a women's class, but it was on a Monday morning at like 6:30, and I was like, I wouldn't train a Monday morning at 6:30. I was like, but I'll come. But yeah, and the class there was always the same girls that went. Yeah. But I said to him, I was like, look, there's guys that want to train. And if there's always the same 7 girls that come, well, you can just open the class. And if they want to come train, they can train. And so, yeah, he's like, yeah, I think that's fair. Well, I think it's fair too, Yeah. I think it's good to have girls train together, but they don't need a separate class.
Yeah.
I think when they're first starting out, it can be a nice introduction to jiu-jitsu because it is a little bit intimidating, like you said. I mean, at any level for a woman to come into a club, especially as a beginner. So it's a nice transition to having mostly similar sized bodies with you at least, and just that close contact. It can be quite overwhelming, but I think what works best would be to have that class and then maybe followed on by a general class afterwards. So then if they wanted to, they could go and also attend that one. But I think you're right, like early morning classes seem to be, there's a core group of people that do those early mornings and they're there rain, hail or shine sort of thing. It's not really a place to grow a new class, get new people in type of thing.
There's like other people that train mornings, people that train lunch, and people that train nights, and that's depends on their schedule.
That's it. And they're a morning person and that's their thing. They're not suddenly going to start doing jiu-jitsu just because it's in the morning. Like they're not going to, they're not going to show up. So yeah, that's it for sure.
And what about like you told us just before we hit the record button this morning that your accent is because you have some German background and some Indonesian background. So where did you grow up as a child?
In Indonesia.
Wow. What's
So I was born in Indonesia, and I went to school there, an American school there. So it's an international school. Watch out now. And my dad sent me to boarding school in Melbourne, actually, Presbyterian Ladies College when I was 14. And then I just hated it. So I went back home at 16 and finished school.
Right.
And then,
wow.
No, I'm not coming. Go get your ticket.
We might have hit a podcast limit. We might be getting to
we might be getting close. We had to cut it short with Liv as well. So, but I think it, like I said, shows the authenticity and what it takes to be a jiu-jitsu mum.
Babies are so cute. They're so worth it. For as long as they'll hang out with us, they're so cute.
Liv's baby, like I was saying to her, I was like, we talk quite a bit. And, I always say to women, like, women are like, oh, you inspire me because, I want to be a mom. And I was thinking, I should wait. And I'm like, why do you have to wait? Like, it doesn't have to stop. Your life doesn't have to stop. You don't have to stop being you, it just is harder and you're just more tired. But, like I find that jiu-jitsu gyms are really welcoming and family orientated. They don't care if kids are running around.
That's true. And there's never a good time and there's never a bad time, in my view, to have a child. Like, it's not about money. Yeah. It's not even about relationship status. It's not about marital status. It's not about anything. It's not about the state of the world. It's just have a baby if you want to have a baby, and they're so good. Like
there is not like, oh, I'll just wait till this happens and this, and something that might not happen.
In some ways, I kind of admire people who can plan their life that way. But for most of us, that's not just getting it done and having a great life. Whatever works for you is going to be the best.
Yeah. Did you train much in your pregnancy, and how was that?
I did. I trained till I was about 6 months pregnant, until I physically couldn't actually sit up anymore in the guard, and I was like, okay, it's time to stop. Because it was like getting like super hard. But I would only train with certain people that were comfortable, because I know that people were getting uncomfortable with me, you know, but my friends weren't. And the people, I know that Thiago was like, he kept telling my partner, he's like, when are you going to tell Mary to stop training? And he's like, I'm not telling her. He goes, you're a gym, you tell her. And he's like, I'm not telling her. They were scared of the wrath.
Wow.
Yeah. And then afterwards, what about after? How long after she was born did you come back?
I had the baby, and after 2 weeks, I was like, oh, I'm ready. And then I was like, oh, wait. So 3 weeks, I came back.
Wow. How was that?
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah. I mean, you were a brown belt by then too, so you knew sort of positions, and you could work within your range. Again, the same sort of thing. You limited your partners, or?
No, I just was training normally, but I was just more like, watching my gas. But like, no, I was fine. I was back to normal. Yeah.
Wow. Right. Superwoman.
Yeah. But I think it's like, everyone has, I don't know. I'm really in touch with my body, and I know when something's wrong and when something's not right, I also know like when things start to be niggly, and I know when not to push it and when to push it. And I think everyone knows their body and limitations. Well, I hope they do, but I'm very...
That's something not many of us would pick up in ourselves.
Pardon?
Except for the bulging eyeballs.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, I don't know what.
You've got the bulging eyebrows at the moment, Anton. So
we'll go filter on for my eyebrows. My eyebrows.
They look real.
People pay for those.
Yeah, I can't. I just don't know how to turn it off. That's all. I'm not vain.
All good. So well, hopefully COVID will settle itself down, and we will see you a bit more. How's the last year been for you? I mean, Melbourne obviously had it far worse than Sydney, but how did you find training through isolation, etc.?
So after the first, when they first announced the pandemic, we I think it's when I had the baby, after she was born. So I was like cleared out the garage, ordered mats. So we have mats here. So I would just be training with my partner, Lucky, he does jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
And that was okay? No emotional battles or anything like that? He
would say, yeah, look, he's bigger than me. And I complain about his weight a bit sometimes. But,
Yeah, you're pretty lucky to have.
Yeah. Like we were like, he was like happy enough to train with me, even though I'm smaller, just so we could have training.
Yeah,
for sure. Like I think also the thing about having mats at home is like a self-discipline thing. Like, does it to get out there in the garage regularly? Is that anything that's difficult, especially with a baby and all those sorts of things?
No, so we do it sometimes. So on the weekends, if sometimes we're like, oh, do you want to train? And we'll just train together in the garage. Which is good. I do privates in the garage as well. And because we have split shifts of when we look after the baby and when we go to the gym. So at open mat, we usually bring her and we just take turns, or there's always someone watching her. So we're always training. But when it's like during the weeknights, we'll swap shifts. So I'll do some nights, he does some nights, and the nights that he's at home, he'll have the boys come over to train with him in the garage.
Oh, wow. Awesome. I think Anton was meaning like you're not motivated to train, but I think you're saying you're actually more motivated to train because you've got the mats now.
Motivation is not an issue for me. Yeah.
Why is that?
Time is.
How is it you can be such a tired human being and motivation is not an issue? And I just hopefully something we can all discover. What do you think the reason is? Was it something you were doing as a child, or like where does it come from?
Yeah, I've always played sports and I've always trained. So I used to swim, and I used to have to swim every morning before school. And then when I played sport in high school, we used to have to train every day and play games on the weekend. So for me, like exercising isn't a chore. It's something I enjoy doing. And it's like really, I find like it helps my mental state, it's a good just release. Especially I find that when I get really moody, like, like you just kind of over life. If you exercise, it just takes your mood to a different level,
Yeah. I love that.
She is very energetic, your daughter, isn't she? Is this
Nonstop.
not, yeah, this is standard, yeah?
Love it.
Awesome.
Well,
And
some
she
people,
just fights
some
with the
people
dog.
there's lots of things people turn to, but I guess turning to sport is like a great outlet for dealing
Yeah,
with
for sure.
you know.
Yeah, some people do pottery.
Yeah. Some people get wasted. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think, like Anton said, we're probably close to our limits, and I'm amazed that she's lasted this long. Actually, she's been great. She very must be your calm demeanor around her. She's not.
Well, I work 2 days from home, but now, like, I've worked a lot I've worked full time from home for months and months and months during this pandemic. So she's used to having me work, and now she's like, okay, you work,
So she just entertains herself through the day. She's cool. You don't need to.
Like around here, yeah, she'll come run around and do stuff. Come back.
Wow, awesome.
Sometimes
and the same at the
we'll play
gym.
Outside.
So she'll sort of do that.
There's always someone that sits out. Like, I have a friend, Hassan. He's a brown belt, and he's like my babysitter. Not that I ask him to, but he would prefer not to train and just play with her.
Wow,
like,
that's
okay.
Awesome.
Yeah,
great.
Because he's at the gym all the time, so he's like, whatever.
I feel like this would almost be a harder age than when they're like a baby, like Liv's, because she's pretty mobile now. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but she's like I said, like, someone's always there, and she understands now. Like, she can't run around on the mats, and she has a little designated space, you know. And like, everyone takes turns. When she was a baby, she the receptionist used to look after her, Kiani, when I trained, when she was like a little baby. And then when she got a little bit bigger, she used to cry when I trained because she didn't like people near me.
Oh.
But then she understood that it's just training. So
protective. Oh, that's cute.
Absolutely destroyed on the mats when she gets older with 2 black belt parents. Wow.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we're nearly out of time. Did you have any final words or any words of wisdom that you wanted to share with our listeners? Anything maybe for the ladies that might be listening to help them stay on the mats?
Do you guys at your gym, do you have a problem with the girls not staying generally, or?
I think it's more since COVID, really. Right. I wouldn't say on the whole it's that they don't stay, but yeah, I mean, I'm a bit like you. It was certainly very hard at the beginning in a club where there aren't many women. I think Anton and I are lucky that we are in a club with probably one of the strongest women's teams in the state, if not in all of Australia. So we're pretty lucky, but I know there's probably other people listening to this podcast that are at gyms without many women.
Yeah, true.
Which makes it hard. So any advice if they don't have a lot of women around them about how to stay?
Look, I just think, generally speaking, I think it's like has to do with the individual, like if it's something they really enjoy, they'll just keep coming, and it's got to be like the vibe in the gym. Like, they've got to feel like not creeped out and feel welcomed, like if all the other women, even if there's only 2 or 3 of them, like, make an effort to talk to them and say hello and, include them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Other than that, it's like, if they're not really that into it, then they're not going to stay. That's men and women though, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. So what you're saying, and I totally agree, is if you're at a gym and the culture is not warm and inviting, look at other gyms. That's basically what.
Yeah. A lot of people won't stay.
Yeah. You did do over the gym that you're in, for sure, any day. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Mary. We'll have this out in probably a couple of weeks. We're on a lot of things. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, iTunes. Yeah. We're nearly up to episode 100. So if you could just share it, it would be awesome. Help grow our audience. And hopefully we'll see you on the mat soon.
Okay. Bye. Thanks for having me.
See ya. Bye. Bye.